And here we have the bolts are now off. The shock absorber has been disconnected. So they can gently pull. The swinging arm finds its way out, and then left is quite a nice looking, very nice looking dry shaft. Yeah, that's a nice looking dry shaft. So we'll whip that off in a second, and then take this arm off. Yeah, and then the shock absorber off. So it's another 3 items to physically remove to get the access even better. The next stage, once that is removed, that gives us the ability to look inside the back end of the gearbox, disconnect the gear indicator switch, and now we're looking at now we're nearly ready to remove the subframe. There are 3 bolts holding the airbox on, one there, one there, and one at the other side just in front. These 2 bolts that hold the wire connector on, remove the bolts, just bend that bracket slightly to allow that to go past, and then we can refit that at a later date. We then have to disconnect the wiring here, make sure that we make a note of what goes where, take the torque tubes off so that the airbox is free, and then removing the front bolts, as you can see there, that allows the frame to be tilted up out of the way. Once everything is removed, it's easy then to just lift the subframe as shown, and then we need to disconnect at the front end because the main through bolt is seized in the engine. That's always the case, so we just pull this slightly out in order to disengage that bracket from that bolt, then carefully feed the entire frame backwards, and then once that's gently done, you will find that you'll be left with the airbox sitting on top of the gearbox and the wiring just hanging free. That's the next stage for gearbox removal, which is obviously what you'll need to do if you're going to do a clutch. The bike as it is. Now here you'll see the electric box and all that wiring carefully disconnected, carefully noted where everything goes. You can move that out of the way, and now the airbox pulls backwards once you've disconnected the tubes for the injectors. It's very careful, you've got to be very careful at this point, because it's easy just to pull things about and then create grief. See, that's come off. Obviously that will want a bloody good clean, but how nice to get it to the position where you can look at it. Now look, this is the top of the gearbox. You can see the remains of a bobbin. Those bobbins always break. I've never done one of these without broken bobbins. Bobbins are in stock because it's the sort of thing that you're going to be doing every single time you do a clutch. Every single time. There's the fuel pipe send the system to the injectors. So what we'll do now is we'll clean all of this up, remove the silencer, a bit dodgy with my homemade stand, as you can see, then remove the gearbox, remove the ABS and the battery box complete, so that'll give us an access to the bobbins, because we want to replace the bobbins, clean everything up, take the start motor out, etc, 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 so that we can finally have a look at the clutch. So this is the amount of work that is required just to do a clutch on one of these bikes, which is why they're expensive, because it's a lot of work. It's not so bad when it's your own bike, but if you're paying somebody to do it, then it's going to be a lot of money, because it's a lot of work, because the disassembly is only half of it. You've got to reassemble it and make sure it all works fine. Anyway, we'll continue on. Hopefully this is of interest to those of you that like restoration. Off comes the box, and we can see it looks as if the clutch on this particular bike is new. Hardly been on there at all, but we shall strip it right down to make sure before we reassemble that it's perfect. Quite interesting. As you can see, my temporary stand seems to be holding up at the moment. The gearbox is absolutely flaky as anything. First motion shaft looks okay. Remove the power lever arm, and then we'll be able to separate the engine from the frame, and that'll leave us the front end, which can be disassembled whilst it's hanging from the roof.